Welcome to lesson 5.2, writing linear equations given the slope and a point. Now, in this lesson, we are still going to be using the equation for slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b. And remember, the letter m is always your slope, and the b is always your y-intercept. Now, today we're going to use 3 steps in order to write these linear equations. So if we're given a slope and a point, the first thing that we want to do is we want to substitute or plug in the m and the point using the coordinates x and y into the equation y equals mx plus b. So we will be filling in the y, the m, and the x in order to solve for b. So we'll be plugging in the 3 parts we know in order to use the algebra to solve for b. Then we'll write our final equation where we'll use our slope that they gave us and the y-intercept for b that we solved for to write our final equation in y equals mx plus b. So to begin with, let's look at 2 examples. In part A, they give us the info, the slope is 2, and the point is -3, 5. And remember, given the ordered pair, it's always written x, y. So we're going to use the y, the x, and the slope to fill in from y equals mx plus b, all the parts other than the plus b. So we'll put this 5 in for y, the 2 in for the slope m, and that -3 in for x, and then that whole thing is plus b. Then we have to multiply 2 times -3 is a -6. So we have 5 equals -6 plus b. So to solve for b, you have to add 6 to each side, and b would equal 11. So then our final equation would be, we use the slope again, so we have y equals 2x, slope gets attached to x, plus 11, and that comes from the b. So again, in example B, we have a slope of 1/2 and a point -5, -1. So we're going to plug in the y, the m, and the x and solve for b. So we have -1 equals 1/2 multiplied by -5 plus b. -5 times 1/2 is a -2.5. So we have -1 equals -2.5 plus b. Add the 2.5 to each side, and then b would equal 1.5. So our final equation, y equals 1/2 x, using the slope from the original info, plus 1.5 for the b we just solved for. 2 more examples. So again, plug in the info we know into y equals mx plus b. So we have the slope, -3, which is always m, and then the point, -3, 2. So our equation becomes 2 equals -3 times -3 plus b. So 2 equals 9 plus b. Subtract 9 from each side to get b alone. b equals -7. So our equation, y equals negative 3x using our original slope, minus 7 for our negative 7 being b. And then in D, the slope is 2. Our point is 2 comma 4. So setting up y equals mx plus b to solve for b, 4 equals 2 times 2 plus b. 4 equals 4 plus b. So subtract 4 from each side, and b would equal 0. So our equation is simply y equals 2x, just using the slope, because b is 0, so that'd be plus 0, which we don't need to write. So again, the idea goes back to these 3 steps. Then we get into the idea of parallel lines, which we've already looked at once, but a reminder that parallel lines have the same slope. So in example 2, we're going to use that idea to write the equation of a line that is parallel to the given line that passes through the given point. Sounds complex, but really it's the exact same process as what we just did in the other 4 examples, other than we need to take our slope from an equation rather than it just being given to us. So in part A, the equation for the first line is y equals negative 3x plus 2. So we know the slope of that line is negative 3. And then the point that we are given for our line is 3, negative 4. So we're going to do the exact same thing we did before, setting up y equals mx plus b to solve for b, using the point here, and now we need to take the slope from the line that we're going to be parallel to. So we'll use the negative 3 for m, the 3 here for x, and the negative 4 for y. So it's negative 4 equals negative 3 times 3 plus b. So negative 4 equals negative 9 plus b. Add 9 to each side to solve for b. And 5 equals b. So then our final equation of a line parallel to y equals negative 3x plus 2 is y equals negative 3x, and then we use the b that we just solved for, so plus 5. Same slope, different y-intercept, makes the lines parallel. Part B, we have negative 3/4 x plus 2 for our first line, so we are going to take the negative 3/4 for our slope. Then we're going to use the point 3, negative 7 to set up y equals mx plus b to solve for b. So negative 7 equals negative 3/4 times 3 plus b. Negative 7 equals negative 3/4 times 3, which is a negative 9/4. Add the 9/4 to each side to solve for b, and b equals a negative 4.75. So then our equation, negative 3/4 x, comes from our original slope. So y equals negative 3/4 x minus 4.75, our y-intercept. Then we have the same thing in parts C and D. So our original line in C, y equals 5x minus 3, so we know the slope is 5. We are going to figure out a line parallel going through the point negative 2, 6. So our equation, 6 equals 5 times negative 2 plus b. Multiply 5 times negative 2 to get negative 10. Negative 10 plus b equals 6. So we're going to add 10 to each side to get rid of the negative 10. And b equals 16. So our parallel line passing through negative 2, 6 is y equals 5x plus 16. And then in D, we have y equals negative 1/2 x minus 3, passing through the point 2, 1. So we know our slope is negative 1/2, and x and y are 2 and 1. So 1 equals negative 1/2 times 2 plus b. 2 times negative 1/2 is negative 1. So 1 equals negative 1 plus b. Add 1 to each side, and 2 equals b. So our parallel line to the original equation would be y equals a negative 1/2 x plus 2. And then we get down to our 2 word problems. In the word problems, they ask us to write a linear equation from the given situation, then use the equation to make a prediction. So the first scenario says between 1985 and 1995, the number of vacation trips in the U.S. taken by U.S. residents increased by 26 million per year. In 93, U.S. residents went on 740 million vacations or vacation trips in the U.S. Estimate the number of vacation trips in the year 2005. So what we know here is we have 26 million per year. So with that, we're going to write that as 26x, because we know the million per year is our rate, so that would be our slope. So y equals 26x plus the original 740 million vacation trips that began. So in 1993, there were the 740 million plus the 26 million per year. Then we need to predict for the year 2005. So 2005 is 12 years after 1993. So since 93 to 2005, that would be 12 years. So we will take the 12 years and put that in for x. So 12 times 26 is 312 plus the 740 gives us 1,052 million trips, which 1,052 million is the same thing as 1.025 billion trips. Then in part B, our final example, it says to learn more about water evaporation, you measure the depth of a puddle after a rainstorm. Your first measurement, taken 3 hours after the storm, was 2.25 inches. You take another measurement about an hour later to determine the rate of evaporation of the puddle, which is about 0.25 inches per hour. Estimate the depth of the puddle 7 hours after the storm. So we know 3 hours after the storm, we were at 2.25 inches. We know the rate of evaporation was 0.25 inches per hour. So then what we can do is we know the 0.25 inches per hour is going to be our slope, or our rate in which the water is going away. So if we're going for 3 hours after the storm, we were at 2.25 inches. We first need to figure out where the puddle was at the time the storm stopped. So where was the puddle at 3 hours ago? Well, what we can do is we take the 0.25 inches per hour and multiply that by the 3 hours that have passed, and we know that 0.75 inches have already evaporated. So when we add the 0.75 back to the 2.25, we get 3 inches, which is where the puddle was right after the storm. And that would be our y-intercept, or our b. So in that case, our equation would be y equals a negative 0.25x, because that water is evaporating or going away, plus 3 because 3 inches was the original depth of the puddle. Then what we'll do is take the 7 hours after the storm that they're asking about and put that in for x. So 0.25 times 7, and make that negative, is a negative 1.75. So y equals a negative 1.75 plus 3. So y would equal 1.25 inches. So the puddle is 1.25 inches deep after 7 hours.